Welcome back to another video in the training series. The purpose of this video will be to focus on the circle of care or parent or guardian zone. We'll cover navigation as well as how to add an athlete to our roster and then manage their experience as far as registration goes for participation in Special Olympics programming. Again, this specific video is going to operate under the understanding that you have already gone through the account creation process and have either watched that video or read through the written user guide. So we're going to go ahead and log into a parent or guardian account that we already have created. If you've been keeping up with these videos, I owe an apology to all of our Harry Potter fans out there because I did spell Lestrange incorrectly. It is L-E, not L-A. For those of you who are normal people that aren't Harry Potter obsessed, well, you didn't know that information, and now you do, and you've wasted 10 seconds for me to explain it. Anyway, we are now on the register zone, or what is called the parent-guardian zone. So any individual who is considered a circle of care member for their athlete, this is where they will land when creating an account or logging into an existing parent guardian account. So again, we're going to go through just general navigation of the register zone, and then we'll dive into some more of the specific functionalities around the register zone. So we're logged in as Molly Weasley, the parent guardian of the Weasley boys and girls. We're going to go through the top here. So register zone, very similar. This is our home button. Depending on the different personas that we're playing, if we become a volunteer, this may turn into a drop down for us to navigate between the two. But for right now, where we see register zone is our home button. Up here, we see competition events. This will be very similar to what we saw with the athlete zone or the coach zone, where they can see and interact with existing and upcoming competition events in their program. In my participants, this is where we'll start adding athletes and unified partners, if that's applicable to this parent, to their roster. And we'll get to how we do that here in just a minute. Back at our home page, where we see my athletes, that equals my participants. Competition events equals competition events upcoming, and the past events is a listing of any current registrations for our athletes that we manage, and then the past events that they've completed or participated in. Where we see volunteer with Special Olympics, we'll do that at the end, but that's how this parent or guardian would get access to the volunteer zone to do more with Special Olympics from a volunteer standpoint. With all that said and kind of general navigation going on, we can see the different things that we see at our top bar are also available via our main landing page on the register zone. So let's get into actually adding an athlete to a roster. We'll go to My Athletes, and here we'll see no information currently because we are a brand new parent or guardian, and we're going to be adding a brand new athlete to our roster. So right now we're not seeing any entities for unified partners or for athletes, so we need to go and start adding them. Our boxes here for total athletes, unregistered athletes, doesn't have any data to populate quite yet, so we won't see anything. When we're adding athletes, we have two options. We can either add them through the Add Multiple Athletes button, which will give us a way to add more than just a single athlete at a time, or the more traditional route, add a new athlete one at a time. So depending on how many athletes the parent or guardian is managing, they may use one or the other options here. For right now, we're going to look at what it looks like to add a brand new athlete from a singular standpoint by clicking Add New Athlete. Doing so will populate this box. And what we see here is a lot of the same questions that we see during the account creation process. Things like emergency contact details, first name, last name, all of that stuff. So the parent or guardian or circle of care member will start going through and entering information that is relevant. We're going to start adding Ginny Weasley, our daughter. Preferred name if they have one. male, female, or other gender identity for the gender question, birth date, the person type, so either athlete or unified partner. They can indicate here. We'll start with an athlete. Now this question for do you receive email on behalf of this person is a really important one. So what we saw when we initially created our account is we need to do that verification process, right, for our emails, which means that there needs to be some level of interaction with that email. But in a lot of cases, especially for parent or guardians, the athlete that we manage might not actually have their own email or have access to checking email. So we have the ability of indicating that, hey, we're going to get all of the correspondence specific to this athlete. In our case right now, for Ginny Weasley. By selecting yes to this question, under the shared email box, it'll pre-populate with whatever email that we indicated when we created our account. So my email here, it's already being pre-populated for that shared email. So one big piece of training with this is that if we indicate an athlete or whoever has a shared email, this removes their ability to go in and create an account with their own unique email. It doesn't necessarily stop them entirely. They could go in there and set one up with a different email. And then from a back-end perspective, a staff member could merge those accounts together and take two Ginny Weasleys down to one without removing that access for the parent or guardian. But for right now, this shared email, all communications will just go to the parent, and at a later date, we'll need to create a unique email for the athlete if they choose to manage their own profile on their own behalf. If they do have their own unique email, we can put that here, and all the correspondence will go to whatever email is indicated here. But for simplicity's sake, we're just going to indicate yes, and myself, Molly Weasley, as the parent or guardian, is going to get all of that information. Enter in a phone number, enter in an address. I'm just going to pre-fill this. Adding in a fake email, or not email, a fake address, that whatever is relevant to the information that we need to fill out. Emergency contact, for myself, I'm just going to put Molly Weasley because, I am that emergency contact. Indicate what that relationship is. We've got a couple other options here: parent, guardian, spouse, partner, sibling, caregiver, whatever that relationship may be. The parent, guardian, or circle of care member would indicate that. Race and ethnicity, they answer those questions to whatever is relevant to them. Spoken language, they indicate biography if they have one. This is the opportunity for the parent or guardian to put in a biography. Ginny is a wizard is our biography for Miss Ginny. And then once we've indicated all of the information that we need to, click submit. So what this is doing is adding this individual back to our roster here. We'll see now that Ginny Weasley is part of our roster. We can see that preferred name that we indicated, their age, their profile status, which is marked as complete. What that means is we've answered all those demographic questions, right? So we'll see this in a second when we do a bulk import for athletes to our roster. Complete means that we've answered all of those questions. If it was incomplete, it would indicate that, and we'll have to update that information. Registration status is a prospect. We haven't completed the athlete qualifications yet. We can see this by clicking her name and that they're pending as far as becoming eligible as an athlete. We have health history. We'll see that in a second when we update to their checklist. We'll need to complete a health history form for them. And then once we've completed it, the expiration date. We'll get to this in just a second, but if we needed to update that profile information, very similar to what we saw in our first video of this series, as if we need to change any of that information, address, moves, whatever, we can do that here. And then what we can cover is our go to checklist. We'll cover that in just a minute as we go and complete documents on behalf of our athlete. To add multiple athletes, we'll click Add Multiple Athletes, and then download this Excel file right here in this blue hyperlink. What this does, will download a Excel file for us, find out where it's going to open up on. Here it is. This will open up an Excel file where we can go in and enter some of the information. So we're going to add in Ron Weasley, goes by Ron, his date of birth is 12/8/2014. His gender, we'll see for gender and person type that these are specific types of fields. We couldn't go in and enter something that's not already listed here. And then indicate their person type, athlete or unified partner. Realize that's pretty small, so I apologize. We'll zoom in. Athlete or unified partner, and indicate there. Once we're ready to re-upload this, we'll save it. I'll add one more just for good measure. We'll add this birthday, male, and he is a unified partner. Once we're ready, we'll save it like I mentioned. Navigate back to our portal, upload, choose a file, choose the same file that I just used, and then click upload. Depending on how many users we're uploading into the system, may take a little bit longer. We saw mine, we had to wait a little bit, but really didn't take all of that long. But if we're uploading a roster of 50 athletes or 50 partners, it may take a little bit longer than what we're used to. So now we've uploaded, we can see that these two individuals, Ron Weasley as an athlete and Fred Weasley as a unified partner, has been added to our roster. I mentioned this earlier, but we can see the difference between the profile status of complete versus incomplete. This tells me as a parent or guardian that I need to go in and update their profile and actually add those demographic information that we were looking at earlier. We can see that now it says complete profile, whereas for Miss Ginny, it said update profile because we've already completed that information. So if we need to do that, we'll go click complete profile. And it'll open this up and we'll indicate all this information that we need to. Save us some time. I'm not going to do that right now. But we are going to navigate to Mr. Ron Weasley's checklist. So this is what a parent or guardian will click in order to start completing any documentation forms specific to that individual athlete that they need to. So click go to checklist. And here we are on Ron Weasley's checklist where they need to complete the health history and release. I'm going to go through this relatively quickly as we've covered some of the health history and release in other videos. But I do want to make a couple call outs. Is different to what we saw when an athlete is completing this form. We ask another question at the beginning in terms of relationship type. This is the relationship type that the parent or guardian, so what Miley Weasley has to Ron Weasley, the athlete. So we indicate that I am the parent or guardian to Ron, and then go through and answer the questions. So we'll see the same questions that an athlete or a coach would see when completing the document. They can add conditions, save and continue, and move on through the form, answering information relevant to the athlete that they manage. So their son or daughter or care member that they are in charge of, they'll indicate all of this information. Continue through all of the questions, answering anything specific to the athlete themselves. If there's dietary requirements, they select yes, they'll specify everything that is required here. I know I'm going through these relatively quickly, so if there are specific questions on things, I definitely recommend looking back in a previous video to learn a little bit more information specific to the health history process. I'll probably make a video just focusing on that, as I know a lot of questions do come up. Head injury, indicating how many. Just work on through these. I've mentioned this before with the health history, but obviously, going through this the first time, it takes a little while asking all these questions and answering them. But as a reminder, once we've answered these questions once, we don't have to go through every single one of these again. When it comes to renewal time, the athlete or the parent or guardian or coach will just have to update any information that has changed over year. Evaluation and research, definitely won't call out here, but this is an optional field. It defaults to no, but if we indicate yes, information specific to this athlete's health history form will be shared out with others. So here we've got our summary response of all of the questions that we just sped through. We'll go through and verify all this information is correct. Click Save and Continue, and then complete the document. Now, when it comes to the health history and release form signature process, it's a little unique for a parent or guardian. We need to go through the process of either, if we're doing manual sign, downloading the document and printing it out, and then signaturing it as on our behalf as a parent or guardian, and then re-uploading it to the system. This is a very similar process to any other health manual sign process that we do in the system. Download the form, sign it, re-upload it, submit it, then we're done. Now, the big difference between the e-sign form for a parent or guardian is that this is going to require the athlete or the parent to put an email to send to. This is a stopgap and kind of a safety measure to make sure that the parent or guardian is filling this out, and that the e-signature process comes from the email that we need it to come from. Email this, put this in here. My own email in here just to show. Excuse me, coughing. And then send e-sign request. What this will do is I'll pull up my email. Give it a second to process and send out. Once that email comes through, I'll pull it up on this screen for us to see. All right, we can see already in my bottom right-hand corner, we've got the document open. So the parent or guardian will receive an email from Adobe Acrobat. So definitely a training piece is that unlike a lot of the communications that come from the portal, those come from Special Olympics portals or portals at specialolympics.org. Big difference here is that these emails for Adobe Sign documents will come from Adobe Sign. So the parent or guardian will receive this email with the document for them to review and sign. All they have to do is click Review and Sign, and it'll open up a web page either on their computer or if they're using a mobile device, open it up on their mobile device for whatever Adobe compatible browser on their phone that they have. They'll see very similar information, a summary version of the health history and release. They can click the little blue checkbox here and indicate that they are the guardian of this athlete, and then sign their name here. We'll type Molly Weasley, apply, click next, and then apply this here as well. Don't even have to type it again, just one time and we're good. And once they're done, they'll click and sign, and we're all set as far as signing this document. Now, if we go back to our portal, we'll see this reflected on our My Participants tab. We go back here, we'll see that Ron Weasley has attempted something and he has submitted this health history and release. Once the staff staff at the Special Olympics program review it, it'll be updated to approved. For unified partners, we don't necessarily get as much information as we do with the athletes, but we can see that their qualification is pending. Big kind of difference between a unified partner and an athlete is that we may ask the unified partner to log into their portal and complete those checklist items themselves. So from a parent or guardian perspective, there may be access to another account that you have in order to help manage your unified partners and their experience with registration. This kind of sums up your athletes or my participants area of the register zone as a parent or guardian. We can continue going through our athletes and update their checklists if we need to, and go from there. Let's look at competition events. This is going to be a very similar view to what our athletes will see, but they'll be able to see upcoming or existing published events in their program. If they click into an event, they'll be able to see all the details, where it's at, and then all of the registrations that are coming up that they can register for. Now we'll see here is that very similar to the athlete zone, a parent or guardian isn't eligible to register their athlete for a competition. That will be done by the coaches and only the coaches. They will handle their athletes' registrations for whoever their athletes are. However, parent or guardian will have visibility into upcoming events that they've been registered for their athletes. They'll be able to see the name of the event, their athlete's name, the competition, and the date of it. So they'll be able to confirm that their athlete or their coach has registered that their athlete for participation in a specific event. Same thing here in my athlete past events. They'll be able to see previous competitions and those registrations associated with it. Our final piece of the register zone is volunteer with Special Olympics. So just like an athlete, we can click volunteer with Special Olympics. And we can go to our checklist and start the process of becoming a volunteer. Now we'll see that the big change here is that what we saw earlier, our register zone now becomes the home dropdown, where we can navigate between two zones by clicking whichever applicable one we need to. So with that kind of sums up the register zone for a parent or guardian or circle of care member. We went over what it looks like to add a brand new athlete to our roster, what it looks like to add a health history form to their profile, what it looks like for a checklist, and how we can manage that experience on behalf of an athlete that we oversee. We'll cover some more stuff specific to the health history in an upcoming video, and what it looks like both from the front end and the back end perspective as a staff member. But with that is all we've got for this training video. Thank you all again for taking the time to learn more about each of these trainings, and hope to see you on the next one, in which we will most likely be covering the coach zone. So an active coach who has completed all of their qualifications and is managing athletes on their behalf in the perspective of a coach. Hope to see you there. Have a good one.